All right, we're live. Couple of big things. First off, new computer. Thanks for everybody who's been patient with this process. Trying to get a new computer. I got a new computer. Now I can do some real good streams. And I'm going to come on here right after. Well, there's still one more game in progress. San Diego State are going against Yale, but a lot to get to here. What a wild weekend. March Madness brought to you by Modelo, the number one beer in America. I'm not going to actually have a Modelo on Sunday night. I'm going to actually have some water here to start us off. The future of radio, man, is going live on YouTube right after games. This is what I do best. I think we do best as an audience, and we're going to jump in and get right into this. So let's wait for a few people to get in here. Let me know if everything sounds good, and excited to have a brand new computer. I'm going to do a podcast on how difficult it is to podcast unless you have the right equipment. If you don't have the right equipment, man, it is hard. So got a new computer, put a little investment into this process here, and hopefully it pays off. And thanks a lot for coming on. And you can hit me up, as you know, here, subscribe on Twitter at JT the Brick, and JT the Brick on YouTube, JT the Brick YT. So let some people know about this. Look, I'm going to go about 20 minutes here, so get into the chat. Again, this is a brand new system that I'm using here. So if you get in the chat, let me know it's working good. I would appreciate that. How does it sound? How does it look? All of that. And I'm gonna rant now and get ready to go. Couple of things that are bothering me, man, is these shitty three-point shots when you're leading. If you have the lead in a game, you do not have to take a three. Houston, 4 of their players fouled out. They're up by 5. They're up by 6. They're up by 9, and they're shooting threes. You don't have to shoot a three when you're leading in a ball game. You shoot threes, A, when they're wide open and you have good three-point shooters. And number 2, you shoot threes when you're losing to get back into the game. So all I'm doing is seeing all this go down. And Houston, I picked Houston to win it all. I don't care about Houston. I'm not a Houston Cougar fan. I filled out a bracket like you did. I had Houston winning the title. They deserve to lose that game. They gave that game back to Texas A&M. Texas A&M played smart. They got to the free throw line. I mean, how many free throws? I stopped counting after, 44 free throws? If Texas A&M makes those free throws, they win that game by 10. They win the game by 10. And don't tell me, and how about these Houston players? Every time they foul someone and foul out of the game, they're going like this. Oh, I didn't foul anybody. What are you talking about? You just fouled out of the game. You've been fouling the whole game. And now you sit there and in the fourth quarter, you're fouling these stupid fouls. And you're going to your coach, Kelvin Sampson, and your mom in the stands, and Jim Nance, who's in the stands, and you're like, I didn't foul. And then they show the replay, and it's like this, right on the wrist. Oh, I didn't foul. What are you talking about? Texas A&M did the smart thing. They attacked the rim, right? They were trailing. They attacked the rim. They get fouled. The clock stops. They go to the free throw line. They make their free throws. Houston comes down with the lead, takes the three, because no one can run a fucking play in college basketball. No one can run a play in college basketball. No one can run a backdoor screen. No one can just, pass the ball around other than to Purdue, to Zach Edey. So everybody just shoots threes. Now you're asking, why the hell is this guy on YouTube after March Madness, after the first weekend, bitching about threes? Because it's fundamental sports. It's fundamental. You don't shoot threes with the lead when you're trying to hold on to the lead and secure the game. The easiest way for these teams to get back in the game, that was a 1 seed versus a 9, is to just take bad shots. Houston was awful. They did everything that you can do to lose that game. Fouling, bad threes, and just playing reckless with the lead. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, what are you doing? So I shredded John Calipari pretty hard today on my Mad Dog show. Was on 4 hours today on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Really came after John Calipari hard because he forgot how to coach. All he does is recruit one-and-done players. Doesn't seem like he knows when to call a timeout or to be a little bit different and to do something. I don't know what to tell you there. And then Bill Self's team wasn't even competitive against Zagalicious Gonzaga. What the hell happened to Kansas? Now Kansas can't compete? Rock Chalk Jayhoff with Spokane? And then I'm looking at, and then Bruce Pearl and Auburn goes down. I come from an Illinois family. They're happy about that. So UConn played Stetson and Northwestern, and they cruised. So let's just go through the brackets. Again, I picked UConn to play Houston. I picked Houston over UConn. I didn't go out on a limb. I like the chalk in this tournament. I don't like a lot of these seeds. I actually like Tennessee a lot, and I liked Auburn. All right, let's keep going here. So you got San Diego State blowing out Yale. San Diego State will advance there. Oh, Illinois, Fighting Illini. Fighting Illini look great. Not only did they win the Big Ten, but they're playing really good basketball now after beating Duquesne. They'll take on Iowa State. That is a heavyweight fight. I'm going to go with Illinois for a happy wife, happy life. I like Illinois the way they're playing. Iowa State, the way they beat Houston in the past. And Houston looked reckless and out of control for me tonight. No doubt about that. So we got that side of the bracket. That's the eastern side of it. Let's go to the west, where North Carolina, who beat Tom Izzo, and Michigan State, they'll go up against Alabama, who just beat Grand Canyon. So I like North Carolina would advance and win that game. Clemson, Baylor. Let me talk about Clemson. Clemson had a 15-point lead. Was it 15? And they blew it down the stretch, and Baylor came storming back in that game. And another thing with Clemson, they were taking bad shots with the lead. They were taking threes with the lead, and they let Baylor get right back into the game. Hey, can we use the goddamn clock, please? Can we use the shot clock when you have 11-point lead, 12-point lead? Can you take the shot clock down and not shoot a quick three? Same thing with Clemson. They'll take on Arizona. I like Arizona winning that game, but Clemson's gassed after what they just saw. Arizona beat Long Beach State and Dayton. I wouldn't call that a very difficult road to get to where they're going. Let's go to the south side as Houston just won, barely beat Texas A&M. It was much closer than the score. Houston dodged a bullet. That was potentially a disaster. That would have broke the internet. That's the reason I'm coming on right after the game. How good is this, by the way? What other show you listening to at night? With all due respect to Shannon and Ocho Cinco, I don't got a partner, man. This is me in my house, ready to roll, man, ready to go. This is live. I don't got no teleprompter. I don't got a producer and a director here. I got the new computer, though. Round of applause, man. The new computer's looking good. Houston will take on the Dukies. How easy was Duke's road to the Sweet 16? Are you kidding me? Duke gets to play Vermont and James Madison. You couldn't draw it up any easier than that. Imagine going to Duke before the start of the season, beginning of the year, and say, hey, you're going to make it to the tournament, which is expected, and you're going to have Vermont and James Madison to get to the Sweet 16. For the Dukies now, I don't think Duke can beat Houston, but look, I'm being honest. I'm always honest. Houston just looked like shit down the stretch in the final 5 minutes of the game. You pull that stuff against Duke, you start taking bad threes and fouling everyone at Duke, you're going to end up losing that game. So I really believe Duke, if they play a smart game against Houston, get Houston in some foul trouble. We just saw 4 of Houston's starters foul out of that game. You don't think Duke sees that? Duke's going to be all over that, no doubt about that. I don't think Duke has the talent or the athletes to beat Houston. It wouldn't shock me if Duke won, because I just saw Houston play stupid basketball, really dumb basketball, which is concerning for me. NC State beat Oakland. They'll take on Marquette. Look, Marquette barely got by Colorado. That was a tough game for Marquette, 81-77. I think Marquette gets by NC State. NC State's been a good story. And then the Midwest, Purdue, Zach Edey, they've had it pretty easy. How about this Purdue draw for them? Grambling and Utah State. Now, I saw Utah State out here in the Mountain West against UNLV. UNLV won their NIT game tonight. Way to go. Not that it matters, but UNLV beat San Diego State down the stretch and had some big games with them, and San Diego State's in the Sweet 16. Zagalicious, I call Gonzaga. I've been going to see Gonzaga games in the tournament for years when no one who knew who they were, and Mark Few. Look, I didn't think Gonzaga would beat Kansas, and they drubbed them. I think Gonzaga can give Purdue a game. They got to get Edey in foul trouble, and Edey's the player of the year. I like Purdue advancing there. And then Creighton, Tennessee, I think is the best game left in the Sweet 16. It's Illinois, Iowa State is a heavyweight fight, and I like Creighton and Tennessee. Creighton went to double overtime against Oregon, but they'll get the rest this week. And Tennessee, they're just so athletic, they can come in and beat you. So emergency Houston live stream here as Houston. If Houston would have lost, I think this would have been a disaster for the NCAA. I mean, there's been some upsets here along the way. John Calipari out. Bill Self out. Bruce Pearl out. If Kelvin Sampson was out before the Sweet 16, you can't tell me that this would have been a great tournament. I mean, I love the upsets here and there, but once you get to the Sweet 16, those are the best games that get you to the Elite Eight. All right, let's see some of this. Let's get to the chat and see what some people have to say here in the chat. Let's go, JT. ONT, Soldier, everything looks good and sounds good. Dark Side with JT, I love it. Yeah, I like this too. Michael says, late night, JT. Remember, I've been the king of late night, undisputed for a long time. Good to have that. Danny says, I haven't watched one game in the tournament so far. Well, that sounds pretty, I don't know. That's nothing I'd be proud about there. And look at this. As I'm on my YouTube live stream on YouTube, Trigger's calling in on my Apple Watch. Look at that, everybody. Trigger. Yes. Look at that. I got callers calling in on my watch. Go to YouTube, JT the Brick YT, guys. Let's go. That's funny. Trigger, the Oregon Duck fan, calling me. So that's a little bit of March Madness. All right. Here's where we go tomorrow. Ohtani is meeting the media on Monday. Wow. Ohtani is meeting the media on Monday, and this story's got everything. I really believe that. I'm not just saying this overall, that, yes, Ohtani better talk. He's going to talk. He's going to have a new interpreter. He doesn't speak English fluently. He can speak English, but not enough to have a press conference. So he'll speak. Here's what we know. When they were in Seoul, South Korea, ESPN sat down with Ippei, Ohtani's best friend. Forget about the interpreter shit for a minute. This is Ohtani's best friend. My best friend, best man in my wedding, isn't an interpreter. I grew up with him since first grade. I'd never throw him under the bus and say he stole from me if he didn't. So Ohtani and Ippei, who met ESPN and had a sit-down interview, completely changed the story after Ippei admitted on the record that Ohtani and him were able to pay off a bookmaker, an illegal bookmaker. All bookies are illegal, right? They're all illegal. They've always been illegal. But now with FanDuel and DraftKings and all these apps, you're really illegal if you're a bookie and you're booking bets. Well, the bookie in Southern California needs his money. We're not talking about $40,000. We're not talking about $450,000. It's $4.5 million. So Ippei, assuming he was online with Ohtani, like I have my computer open and they transferred $500,000, then $500,000. Do you actually believe that this happened with Ohtani not knowing at all? Well, that's what happened from Tuesday to Wednesday last week in Seoul, South Korea. All of a sudden, Major League Baseball hears what Ippei had to say, and so do the Dodgers. They go, timeout. Get a TO, baby. Get a TO. And then Wednesday, Ippei says that he stole from his best friend, and the Dodgers now have an ongoing investigation. Ohtani says that he was robbed by his best friend. All right, let's define a robbery. Someone comes into your home, your best friend. He goes up into your bedroom, opens up the safe, grabs a Rolex watch, grabs $40,000 in cash, steals a couple of diamond rings. That's a robbery. Okay? Now, white-collar crime is different. But how about someone who you claim you're best friends with? Why would Ippei ruin his life? Ruin his life. No more Ohtani, no more best friend. Go to jail, and say that he robbed his best friend Ohtani. That doesn't make sense, right? I'm looking right at you. That doesn't make sense. Why the hell would Ippei rob Ohtani? Well, you might say he had a big gambling debt, $4.5 million. $4.5 million isn't a gambling debt. That's a degenerate piece of shit gambler. So if he lost $4.5 million, how much did he bet? So follow me here. Let's say he bet $7 million and lost 4.5. Well, let's say he's such a degenerate, he bet $6 million and lost 4.5. You don't think Ohtani was in on any of those bets? You don't think Ohtani knew about it? You don't think Ohtani knew his best friend, the guy he goes to breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, who he goes to work with, is down $4.5 million? Of course he does. So Ohtani then wants to bail out his friend. Very commendable. He was going to bail out Ippei. So he says, Ippei, come in. Let's go on the wire because we can't drive down to the guy's house and give him $4.5 million. We got to drop 500, 500, 500 and start paying off your debt. You're led to believe that none of the debt was Ohtani's? Okay. All of the debt was Ippei, the translator? Okay. Then how come Ippei said to ESPN on Tuesday in Seoul that he and Ohtani together paid off these wire transfers and then changed the story the next day? I mean, come on, you weren't born yesterday. You know the answer to this. So here's what I've done. And I had Scott Kaplan from ESPN 710 on my show. I talked to a professional bookmaker on this off the air today. And here's what I think's going on. I think that most likely, hopefully, Ohtani did not bet on baseball. If he bets on baseball, he's done. He'll never get into the Hall of Fame. And he's a Hall of Famer. It's too early because he doesn't have the stats, but you can tell Ohtani is going to Cooperstown to the Hall of Fame. He has that type of career going. If he bet on baseball, he'll be able to play baseball again. He'll just be suspended for a year. He won't make any money for a year, whatever happens. But he probably didn't bet on baseball. I'm hoping that the kid, Ohtani, didn't bet on baseball. And he and Ippei bet on international soccer, tennis. You think Shohei Ohtani knows anything about college football? Maybe the NFL. My point is Ohtani on Monday needs to tell the truth. He has to tell the truth, and the truth hurts, right? The truth hurts. So one of two things are going to happen here. Number one, three things are going to happen here. Number one, he's telling the truth. He got robbed by his best friend and was not aware of that. Okay? If you think that actually happened, I have a bridge to sell you here in Vegas. Number two is he admits that he gambles. Ohtani admits that he's a gambler, but Ippei was in a bad hole, losing a lot of money, got into this prison where he couldn't get out of it, and he had a gambling problem. Ohtani admits that he gambled, not on baseball, soccer, the other sports, but he helped bail his friend out. I'm good with that. Now, Ohtani still needs to be suspended because he was dealing and wiring money to an illegal bookmaker. Okay, a 4-year-old Dodger fan knows that. And then the third thing is, I hope it doesn't happen. Ohtani shows up and he just lies completely. He just lies. And he says, my friend stole from me. I was not aware of it at any level. I can't believe this happened to me. And he sticks to that story. Here's the last thing before I wrap this up. The big problem is that the feds are smarter than Ohtani. The feds are smarter than the Dodgers, and the feds are smarter than Major League Baseball. The feds don't care if you're Shohei Ohtani or John Smith. They're going to take you out. They have forensic accountants. They have investigators internally. And they'll get that bookmaker, that bookie in Southern California, to flip. Because the bookie's going to jail. The bookie's going to get squeezed just like it's a mafia movie. They're going to squeeze the bookie until the bookie squeals. And the bookie finally is going to say, do I get immunity? Can I stay out of jail for 30 years? What can I do? Let me tell you who else is gambling. Ooh, I heard whispered and hushed tones. How about that? What happens if it's not just Ohtani and Ippei? What happens if this bookie was using Ohtani's name to get other big clients? And he was just a bet nose saying, hey, man, kind of book your bets with me. I'm dealing with Ohtani, man. I got Ohtani as my client. You're a basketball player. You're a football player. Come deal with me. And all of a sudden, that bookmaker starts flipping, and he rats out the other guys. I think it's interesting, man. There's a lot going on here. I hope Ohtani's clean. I hope Ohtani is clean. I don't know if he is. So what else do we have here? What's up, JT? Smash the like button, please. Yes, if everybody can hit the like button, I appreciate that. Thank you. Ohtani better talk. Mark says Ohtani should be banned. Well, be careful with banning Ohtani because we got to know what he did. Before we ban him, we have to find out what he did. Did he bet on baseball? That's the highest crime. He's out. If he bet on other sports, he's allowed to bet on other sports. He's just not allowed to do it with a bookie illegally. That's illegal gambling. So then he's got to pay some type of fine, and he will be banned for a bit. And if he claims he did nothing, which means he did nothing, he got robbed by Ipe, his best friend. And I mean, robbed him completely, $4.5 million, and Ohtani didn't know anything about it. Ipe gave us everything. He told ESPN the truth. He told ESPN the truth on Tuesday that he and Ohtani worked together to pay off this debt via wire transfers. He's going to change his mind now? And Ohtani's going to give us the story that his best friend stole from him and he had no idea? Tell the truth, Shohei. I don't know what the truth is. I think I gave you the second option, and I think that's an important one, where Ohtani admits some form of guilt. Yeah, I'm a gambler. I have a gambling problem. I don't have as big of a gambling problem as my best friend, but I shouldn't have been giving him money to pay off his debt. And I wish I didn't do that, and please forgive me. Then we'll talk about this for 2 weeks. He'll get suspended for a month or a couple of weeks, and then he's good. He can come back and play. And he can get into the Hall of Fame if he did not bet on baseball. All right. I'm loving this, man. Like I said, appreciate you coming here and doing this with me. We've been on for 20 minutes. I'm going to get into a habit of doing more of this because my son helped me. We finally got a new computer. We got a really sharp computer. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's good. We got the camera. We got the Yeti microphone. Going to hook this up with my local show every day. Every day I'm on locally, Raider Nation Radio, but you can hear it live on the Raiders mobile app. We'll try live streaming tomorrow, and that's it. So I appreciate you coming in here. It looks like the equipment works thanks to my son. We're able to pull it off, and I'll be back here in the next day or two to do this. And look at this. MF said, I listened to all 4 hours of your Sirius show today. Well, I appreciate you doing that. Remember, we have nothing as content creators if we don't have an audience and people that follow us and listen. And I know that. I was a caller. You know my backstory. Let me grab it. Where is it here? Yeah, hold on. You know, this is my book, The Handoff. Tells the whole story about how I got started as a caller on the Jim Rome Show, and then there's a lot more in there. So I appreciate it. If you haven't read the book, to go get it at Amazon.com, and you'll see the backstory of how I got here. I'm done. Here's what a couple things here. Very important. What are we watching? Because what time is it here? It's 9:20. I'm watching Manhunt on Apple TV, the story of John Wilkes Booth, who assassinated Lincoln. Love it. Really good. Well done. The actor who plays John Wilkes Booth, the actor who plays Lincoln, really good. That's on Apple Plus, Apple TV. I'm really enjoying that. Yesterday, I watched Napoleon. Finally got around to Joaquin Phoenix in Napoleon. Not as good as I thought it was, but I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else I should be watching? I watched Masters of the Air. Man, that was good. About the fighter pilots in World War II. Oh, that was really good. And especially the last episode. It had a Band of Brothers feel to it, which I loved. And I thought that was outstanding. Outstanding overall. So I'm looking, I watched a recent documentary. I'm really into documentaries. I think this upcoming Steve Martin documentary, there's a 2-part documentary on Apple about the legendary comedian, Steve Martin, that looks fantastic. But I need to get into the chat. What should I be watching now? I got Amazon Prime. I got Peacock. I have Apple TV. I have Max. So I get a lot of the Max. Oh, I listened to a podcast today. I went for a walk for about an hour, and I listened to The Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Sean, whoever his name is. He's very good. I don't mean that disrespect. Sean Hayes. Yeah. They had John Oliver on from HBO's last week tonight. It was a brilliant podcast. Really, really good. Unbelievable podcast about John Oliver's life and how he comes up with the show and produces the show, his backstory as a live, stand-up comedian, and how, really interesting story, how Richie Gervais told Jon Stewart about him. And Jon Stewart basically hired this unbelievable comedian that no one knew of here in the States in John Oliver. And John Oliver didn't even know Ricky Gervais. I want to talk about an opportunity. And then John Oliver comes over to the United States and becomes a correspondent on The Daily Show. And he's probably one of the sharpest guys on TV. I won't ruin the podcast for you, but he gave the whole story about how he builds that show last week tonight, builds the topics. how many stories they have in the pipeline, how they write it, how they direct it. It was really good. Oh, yeah. Michael says Shogun. My youngest son watched that, and he said it was great. Shogun on Hulu is great. That's good to know. Thanks for those who read the show. William Wrestling says you need to be on Mad Dog Radio full time. I would agree, but I like being where I am on Mad Dog. I can't do 10 radio shows a week. I can't, especially NFL season where I work all day Sunday for the Raiders. So being on Mad Dog Sunday, Mondays, and then maybe another day going forward is fine by me, man. I've done more hours on radio. I believe this to be accurate. You know, Christopher Mad Dog Russo is a legend, and he does a big radio show. But for years, he did his show with Mike and the Mad Dog. I've been doing my shows mostly by myself for 27 years. No co-host. Tom Looney was my partner for years. But it's just been me. So I'd like to be on Mad Dog 5 nights a week. It'd be nice. But literally, if I did that, I'd have no life, because that'd be 6 days a week on radio, 2 shows a day. I worked my ass off to get to this point, right? Look at the house. I'm not going to work 10, 11 radio shows a week. Just too much there, but I appreciate you having my back on that. What else is going on? I only listen to sports radio, JT and Papa and Lund. I know both of those guys, and I go way back with both of them. And Jorge, also Team USA became a dynasty over Mexico, winning 3 Nation League championships in a row. I will not give the United States soccer a dynasty in anything. Okay? Mexico is nowhere near a global power. If the United States was beating England or Spain or Argentina 3 years in a row, I would treat that better. I'm thrilled that the United States won. When I watch these soccer matches, and tonight was a big deal because the Mexican fans almost had the game stopped and disqualified because of their discriminatory chants, which again, you're not going to stop the Mexicans from doing that. They're just not going to stop doing it unless you take away their ability to host the World Cup or big games at Azteca Stadium. The only way to do that. But I don't have a lot of, I respect all sports, and I respect American soccer like I do college hockey and, you know, certain sports. But the United States plays in our league, MLS, a very low, inferior brand of soccer. Very tiny compared to the world. I mean, Messi's coming here at the end of his career for a check. But, hey, I'm happy. I'm rooting for the United States to win. And whenever they play internationally, I want them to win. But they got to prove it to me by doing it in the World Cup. Get into the World Cup. Mikey7189, JT, I listen Monday to Friday, Raider Nation Radio. I live in Quincy, California. I didn't know there was a Quincy, California. I know there was a Quincy, Mass. Kelvin says, do you know if the mayor of Poway is still around? Man, I'd love to know. Yeah, he was such a dear friend to me, and then he kind of disappeared. Mayor of Poway was one of the greatest callers of all time. When I entered the first Smack Off and won, I actually thought the mayor of Poway was going to win the Smack Off. He was the best caller I heard at that point. And he called my show for years. And I appreciate you saying that, because I'd really like to know where the mayor of Poway is. You know, last thing about these callers, some of them became really good friends of mine. I mean, who've been to my wedding, who've been to my home right here. And I treat them like family. You know, for every once in a while, a listener or a troll will someone say, you treat the callers like shit, and I just laugh. No, I don't. I treat the callers like family. The big difference with me is if you don't have a good call, you're not going to get on my radio show. If you disrespect the show and you don't prepare it, and you come in just saying, hey, man, I just want to say hello, I'm thinking, no, you're off the air. You're going to get hung up on. Hanging up on a phone caller is not disingenuous and mean. It's what my career is, man. I mean, I can't put shitty callers on the radio. Got to put the best of the best on. And I've been lucky to have some of the best of the best. So, yeah, I'd love to catch up with some of the callers. At one point in my career, I had Raider Rob in Oakland, the mayor of Poway, John in Fraser, Michigan, who called my show tonight, Benny Jett, Trigger, who just called me on my watch. And the callers, they're my lifeblood. Without good callers, and I work at Sirius XM, and they actually like callers. They actually want callers. You know, you hear some of these program directors now and consultants, they'll pull you into an office and say, we don't want calls. We want to hear more from you. Bullshit. If you don't put a caller on the radio, then a caller can't criticize the host. If the host makes a mistake and is not accurate with information, The host is never going to read a tweet. He's never going to read a tweet that is disparaging the host. So it's nice to take a call or two. Can you imagine being a radio talk show host and not taking calls? Like really doing a 3-hour show and not taking a call for 5 years? Can you imagine asking your listeners to be loyal, buy the advertising, listen every day, but you have one rule: you can't call? That's happening now in abundance. It's happening now in abundance. And my other big pet peeve is these radio shows that have 9 co-hosts, 6 guys talking in the back, 9 guys talking in the back, getting on camera. No. I wish them well. They're doing well. Some of them are doing great. That's not the way I do it. You get me unfiltered opinions every day. Not saying I'm right all the time. I'm right more than I'm wrong. And I admit my mistakes. So a little bit of International Black Man. Absolutely. One of my favorites. Adam Sweeney, Poway in the house. I'd love to find it. MF says Bay Area media is soft with the San Francisco Giants. I don't agree. I don't think the San Francisco media is soft. I just think the San Francisco media is listening to San Francisco program directors who are now all gone. When I started in San Francisco, there was legendary program directors. Now there's kids and other people programming in different marketplaces who don't know shit. Like the gambling talk. How much bad gambling talk do you listen to on the radio? You know, gambling talk takes up less than 2% of all of the pie of sports radio. And there's like 3 people who do it well, or 4, who can do it every day, Monday to Friday. And it's hard. And now it's the wild, wild west of sports media where everybody thinks they're allowed to be behind the microphone every day. You shouldn't be allowed to have a radio show, a sports talk show. You can have a podcast. This is a podcast, what we're doing. I encourage everyone to do it. You should not have the right to be on the radio if you have no experience and you don't have advertisers and you don't sell and you don't bring energy to the show and you're not good at it yet and you're having a tryout. You know how many people are going through tryouts and they're live on the radio? That never happened when I started. This isn't get off the lawn shit. This isn't back in the day. Back in the day, I had to do 5 hours in overnight until I moved up in the lineup. That's it. Now they're taking guys who screen phone calls and putting them on the air the same day. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Big East was disrespected. It's starting to look that way. Sports Grid, amazing with sports betting info. I have a number of friends at Sports Grid, including my buddy Brady Cannon. Follow him at Las Vegas Golfer. He's really good. And some other, Joe Lisi. Big fan of Joe Lisi, who I have on my show often. He's fantastic. I wish those guys the best. Jorge says a call should have a beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, that's what a call should have. The beginning, which is hi, JT, first-time caller, love the show. You don't need to do that. The call should come in blasting strong on the topic. Then the meat of the call should be the middle of it, and at the end, you wrap it up like I'm wrapping it up now. Love the new computer, man. Love it. Get a little Raiders bottle of water there. A little Raider Nation. Right? Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. We'll see you back tomorrow on YouTube. Please hit subscribe. Thanks for being here.